there, grammar splainies. You asked me about this structure, had, had. That verb occurs quite frequently in English, so let's learn. Let's review the past perfect tense, in which the subject is placed at some point in the past and then talks about the past before that point. For instance, in 2020, I had already begun my studies. In this sentence, we're in 2023, but you're talking about your status in 2020. You began your studies before then. And the way you form the past perfect is to combine the helping or auxiliary verb had with the perfect form of the verb. And you know that the perfect forms of most verbs is the same as the simple past, as in bring, brought, brought, cook, cooked, cooked, talk, talked, talked, have, had, had. But some are irregular, and I'm sure you've memorized all these. Drink, drank, drunk, see, saw, seen, is, was, been, eat, ate, eaten. In fact, let's make a pair of sentences with this verb, one in the simple past and one in the past perfect. At 7 o'clock, he ate breakfast. By 8 o'clock, he had eaten breakfast. Now, oftentimes in English, the verb to eat is interchangeable with the verb to have. We can say, I had breakfast or I ate breakfast. So in these sentences, let's change that eat to have. At 7 o'clock, he had breakfast. By 8 o'clock, he had had breakfast. That's how we say it. Even if you have to put two hads together, it's correct. What else do people have? Regrets, problems, drinks, or another expression, it. Here's someone talking about how they felt in the past and a decision they made in the past. I had had regrets, but I decided to move on. And move on means to continue with your life and leave your troubles behind you. Move on. Go forward. How about this sentence? She didn't see a doctor. There she is in the past. Sometimes she didn't see a doctor because she had had problems with her last one. How about this sentence? He had had 5 margaritas by the time he finished dinner. As you know, a margarita is a kind of cocktail. So he finished dinner sometime in the past, but before then, he drank 5 margaritas. And then look at this sentence. I had had it with her. You may know this expression, to have had it. It means I had lost patience. An equivalent expression is I was fed up. And we always use this expression in a perfect tense, whether the present perfect or the past perfect. I've had it with English. I've had it with 2023. I've had it with you. If you're talking about the past, then it's going to be the past perfect. I had had it with her. Now, native speakers often contract that first had, so you don't hear had, but that is what they're saying. I'd had regrets. She'd had problems. He'd had 5 margaritas. I'd had it with her. So let's look at some examples from real life. Here's a brief article on COVID-19, because another thing that people often have is illness. In a recent study, unvaccinated adults were asked to participate in an examination of their antibodies. So in this situation, we are in the present. The study was in the recent past, and people were asked questions about their past. They, that's the people in the study, fell into one of 3 groups. 1, those who had tested positive for COVID-19. 2, those who suspected they'd had it, but hadn't gotten a test. And 3, those who believed they'd never had the virus. With an average of almost 9 months since infection, some 97% of those who had had the virus tested positive for anti-RBD antibodies. So there are several forms of had in this one brief passage, and they all read naturally and smoothly to native eyes. Those who suspected they'd had it. So the study took place in the past, and our subjects suspected that before that they had the illness. They had had it. And then those who believed they'd never had the virus. That's had, never had. And note that you put either a not or an adverb in between those two hads. Had always had sometimes had seldom had, or had not had, or had never had. And then that final sentence, those who had the virus tested a certain way. So had may sound strange or forced or overly formal, but to native ears it sounds perfectly easy and normal. Go ahead and use it.